There we go. I think we made it. I hope I'm not muted anymore.
Well, we're I could see you, you could see me.
I think Jared and everything is fine. It's really great to meet you again, Jared. Um, and it's awesome that we overcame the login difficulties in the beginning. Because I had the same issue logging in, so I was like, oh my god, how can I get in? But let's move this all aside. Thank you everyone for joining in on this episode of the Revenue Circus podcast. And today we're gonna speak about how to create movements. And there is no one better to explain us how to do that than Jared on LinkedIn. You have created a massive movement with Rev Genius. You have been building a personal brand that is really relatable and unique in a way. And we really want to take the time today to get to know you better, Jared, and also, yeah, zip a bit on your secret coffee, so your secret sauce on how to create those movements. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce Jared. How are you doing after this all?
I'm good. Fun story. This in real time, I'm creating this 30 videos, hashtag 30. I don't even know what it's called. We just started it like today. Hashtag 30 videos. The idea of 30 videos in 30 days on LinkedIn. It's just another micro movement to rally people around a common interest. This coffee, the reason why I have this coffee outside of the fact that I paid for it, which often gets you product, I poured a full coffee this size on my leg onto my shoes. And the shoes I had were like, it was after the jib.
Yeah.
Were Converse, the high tops, like Converse All Stars, in like, a lighter color, beige. If you know anything about those shoes, they look cool, they're old school, they're classics, they're comfortable enough, but they're not waterproof. So
Yeah.
like it burnt everywhere.
I love that
But
because
I've recovered. I've since showered. I have another coffee. This is take 2.
yeah,
So I'm gonna nurse this as long as possible.
I think you deserve it after that, and I can totally relate. You said they were cream white as well. Now they're probably brownish. Um,
Yeah, I think they're going to end up being light brown when all is said and done. And this is and the one thing I was thinking about. This is why I wear all black, because it's just easier. No, I actually are you familiar with the Yoji Yamamoto quote about black?
no, tell me.
This is the best quote. Um, hold on, let me get the exact quote. All right. So Yoji Yamamoto is a fashion designer. Are you familiar with him? Y3 is the
Yeah,
brand.
yeah,
If you've seen that, and they've collaborated with brands like Adidas in the past, but they're a fashion brand
yeah,
with like some active style. So Yoji, a Japanese designer, said that black is modest and arrogant at the same time. Black is lazy and easy, but mysterious. It means, yeah, black is lazy and easy, but mysterious. But above all, black says this: I don't bother you. You don't bother me.
I think that's a great introduction for yourself, Jared. We never had a person joining with a quote, and I think this maybe explains a lot about yourself. For the people that like don't know you that from your LinkedIn and everything, like who are you in the professional world, and what what are you passionate about?
Oh man, I'm a person that had a major
Mhm.
at around 30, going from FedEx into software sales. It all started when I was sitting at a computer with like dial-up internet in 2013, shopping in IKEA for new apartment stuff. That's all I could afford at the time. Still, it might be all I could afford at the time. And I was just bored. I was actually on jury duty
Mhm.
doing the shopping, and I was just bored out of my mind. But what I realized was I was also bored in my career at that time. So I used LinkedIn at that time. There wasn't really content on LinkedIn. We're talking 2012-ish. It was more of like, just your
That's
profile pages.
mm.
And I used it to reach out to one of my high school friends, or to see what he was doing. And I noticed he was an account executive. And I remember him being really smart, and we started a business together. And we wrote a business plan together. We didn't really start the business together. It was a senior in high school project. And it was like an auto detailing thing. We loved cars, and we wanted to charge people like $100 to essentially clean their car better than other people. It was a fine idea. It was a normal idea. It was good. And so now we're like 6-7 years later. I'm bored out of my fucking mind with dial-up internet, looking at IKEA stuff,
Yeah.
praying I don't get called for jury duty, but I'm in the courthouse, right? And I just remembered, like, I was happy to be there because that's how bored I was with the alternative actually working. No offense, FedEx.
Yeah.
And so I decided to reach out to Brian, and I'm like, Brian, you're an account executive. I never thought there was money in technology. I thought it was just like kind of like a cool young kid's job.
Mm.
And he went to school for engineering, and he was smart in high school. I'm like, why the hell is he account executive at 29 years old? It felt weird. And he goes, Jared, call me. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, he said, call me. He said, I'm making $300K right now as an account executive for this display advertising company. And I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to leave my job because I got offered $400K somewhere else, and I'm going to take it. And I'm like, holy shit. He's like, I can make an intro to take over my territory for me. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting because, quick qualifier, like, one, the money, duh. I always say you need two reasons to do anything. Money could be one of them.
Mhm.
But if you don't have that second reason, you're truly doing it just for the money. And like, that's the other reason could be learn, could be grow in some way. But I believe you need at least two reasons to do anything. If it's just money, it's not going to be fulfilling.
Yeah.
But so long story short, he came back to me a few weeks later and he said, I'm not accepting the new job because my old boss went over there, gave me a job offer at Thrillist. I don't know if you remember. Thrillist Media.
Just a bit, yeah.
And he was super cool and all this. And he's like, they have to revoke it because of a non-compete. So I'm going to be keeping my job. And I'm like, oh shit. But it was enough to plant that seed, right? It planted that seed in me. So I went hard to get into digital advertising. But at the time, that's when, like, billboards were going digital.
Yeah.
So all the salespeople were flooding digital, and I had no experience. I worked at FedEx in sales for 7 years, and I did very well compared to others, but people didn't believe that I could go across. So digital advertising ended up not working. I couldn't convince people I could sell display ads, but I went on AngelList and found an early stage startup eventually that was going to change the world, like we all are, right? And but they had great investors, or at least one, Peter Thiel, who at the time wasn't so polarizing as he is today. He was a little closer to the heels of PayPal, 10 years plus closer. And I took a pay cut to go into SaaS. So where I thought I was going to make 150K base or more, and I was fine with half of that if it was 75. I ended up going in making 60 as an account executive, and I was making more at FedEx. So I took a big risk to come in, but it all started with me looking to the future, figuring out what was next. And that small act, if I wasn't in that jury duty, getting paid nothing on a day off from a job I didn't like, figuring out but not really knowing like how to figure. I was literally researching the top sales jobs, like Googling. That's how little. And it took a friend pointing me in the right direction to get to where I am today. And that whole journey created a lot of empathy with others going through that, but also a lot of connection with folks at different stages of their careers. So that's how I used LinkedIn to get started. And now we're here today. And I mentioned I have a 30 videos in 30-day challenge.
Yeah.
How crazy is that, right?
It's super crazy. And I am curious because then you had those FedEx jobs, you're reaching out to your friend, you end up not getting the job because the colleague stays at the company.
So the colleague left, but it was illegal for him to hire because of a non-compete.
Okay. Now I get it. Okay, all right.
Yeah. He just couldn't hire him.
Exactly. Okay, but you go then somewhere else, taking a big pay cut.
But it's a technology. Yeah.
Exactly. You move over, and what happens then? Because you are the founder of Rev Genius, which is an absolutely incredible platform. If you're not familiar about it, please check them out. How did you end up starting Rev Genius in the end?
What happened then? I moved into an office building. I slept on a floor. My dad, it was 9 p.m. one night, and my dad had driven from New Jersey.
Okay.
Mattress from my house, so my high school mattress, knowing that I'd been sleeping on an air mattress in that office building before. And we picked like 9:30 p.m. because we figured it would be easier to slide things into an office building. But as he pulls up, I realize all the lights were bright and on in there. And I'm like, okay. And the security cameras were there. I'm like, we're just going to walk right in front of these security cameras with a mattress at 9:30 p.m. Go up to the 6th floor, put the mattress on the floor. And we did. And the lesson from this was really cemented in like following my passions no matter what. I had a relationship that didn't work out. I was still paying rent there because we lived together. And I refused to move home for the simple reason, and I have great parents, but for the simple reason that it would admit defeat. And I felt like I would have to change my lifestyle, which I didn't want to do in New York City in my 20s. I wanted to be in New York City in my 20s, not just survive on my parents' couch. So that was insane. The anxiety that came out and all of that. So what happened after that is a lot of bets I made and risks I took to try to figure it out. Many of them failed, or what people would consider failure. Some of them succeeded. Some could have succeeded if I just gave it more of a chance. But that first company I slept on the floor with had an $80 million exit last year. $80 million exit. I was sleeping on the motherfucking floor for 60 grand. I didn't get 80 million. I didn't get 8 million. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But I did get some money, and that was great. Was it worth it? No way. Yes. The answer is yes. Was it financially worth it? It was probably break even with what I could have made if I made double elsewhere. But I ended up leaving to go to other jobs. I've had normal salary enterprise sales jobs, in the 6 figures. And I've left that to go to $60,000 jobs as well in my 30s. And this whole time, and I built a fashion magazine, not knowing anything, and got 10,000 monthly subscribers there. So thank you, Caesar.
It's a good man. He's a good man.
I've pushed growth every which way, and I think this is the core, taking risks and making a bet, to my story, but it's also connects with many people's stories. Do they want to take the risk? Do they want to make that bet? Whether it's on a roll, maybe it's leaving. Every single person that's watching this or will watch it has had a professional time in their lives where they thought about or did make a bet, maybe even a gamble.
Yeah.
A bet is something easily weighed out. A gamble is just like a risk. But a bet for sure. They've asked their parents, should I take the job or not, right?
Yeah.
Because there's something with it. So to that, I say throwing yourself in as many experiences as possible allows you to gain experiences and ultimately connect with people. And that's where we're going with this whole talk. Thank you for coming on the journey with me.
Cool. That's it's an incredible story, and I really like the point of admitting defeat, right? Especially in your 20s, like you're figuring stuff out and everything. And admitting to failure is the hardest thing you probably can do, and then you withdrew, and then eventually you started to build this company, the Ref Genius. Like how did this idea came about, and when did you know that you were onto something?
So the funny thing about Rev Genius, I built it. It was a plan for me to get a job. I had no job at the beginning of COVID, so I heard about this LinkedIn thing, and everybody, listen to this story. There's a lot of things you could take out tactically. So what did I do? I started posting. I bought a playbook from Justin Welsh.
Yep, great guy.
Who has a great playbook. I don't know if it's still the best, but at the time it certainly was. And it helped me have some structure and start. And that's all I needed. And then so I was getting a little bit of engagement, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20, got up to like 25 likes a post, and that felt good. But I started meeting people in the comment section. So I started talking with them and asking them for jobs. I needed a job, right? So we created this little group. There's the 4 Musketeers, Galen, myself, Ben, and Stephanie, and we were building this group. And then we're like, oh, invite others to this group. And I'm like, I have nothing to do. It's COVID. Applying for jobs doesn't even make sense right now because there are no jobs to be had at the time. So how could I just be seen and network in as much as possible? So to me, this was like exponential networking. So we started with 4. I asked people to each bring on others that were just like us, like vibes. At the same time, Galen and myself were like, let's create like a single space for all the events because there were so many events virtually. So we created like a Google Doc and we emailed it or gave it to people in this group once a week. Right? How you have like millions of events and everything, and you unsubscribe from all of them. Like if you just had one email with everything, maybe you would keep it.
Yeah. That's cool.
Especially if they were all for salespeople or all for marketing people or all for GTM people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like everybody competing for the mailbox. It's like, no. Let's give everybody their traffic, but let's allow them to aggregate it in one spot. So that was I still think that's a challenge. I don't know if that's an interesting enough challenge to be solved the way I saw it, but regardless. Well, we realized as we grew to like 15, 20, 25 people in there and people were just inviting others, we did a quick approval, like, are they cool? Right? Like, are they in the space? I realized quickly that everybody really liked everybody in the group, but I wasn't sure if they were looking at the sheet that we made every week painstakingly on Sunday nights. But I will say everybody was complaining like nobody's business that we were breaking the LinkedIn app on their phone every single day. Like machine gun fire on LinkedIn, like until the app closed. I'm not sure LinkedIn has fixed that. but I'm in the process of testing it again now. I'll let you know. I'll report back. It's definitely wonky.
Please do.
LinkedIn is not meant to be a community platform, although if they added stuff like Facebook communities on LinkedIn, it could be interesting. That's not their next thing. But that's it. And then we were growing so fast. I was adding and then when that happened, everyone's like, oh, let's move to Slack. I'm like, okay, let's move to Slack. So we moved to Slack, and then I just started inviting people, like 300 people a day. And then I'm like, I can't interview for jobs now. Because at this point, I'm actually getting interviews for jobs that don't exist because people are seeing me. And my engagement on the post might have went double, maybe 50 likes a post, but nothing crazy, right? Like something good. But it was a way for me to build my brand. So like what was interesting is some people build their brands by figuring out how to get 100,000 impressions on a post. And that's certainly good. Like the more people see you, the better. I chose to build my brand from posting. Don't get me wrong. I do think that's an important ingredient, but like also having conversations. Quick conversations, inviting people directly to join Rev Genius, and then making Rev Genius the most engaged community in the go-to-market space. So doing all of that, people knew me. And even if LinkedIn didn't reward that all the way, like maybe 10,000 impressions versus people think I should be at 200,000, and I have hit that, but it's not an every week thing, right? Like, rallying all those people was everything. And the key, the reason why they all came in was because of a core challenge we were solving. So I didn't really like double click into this that much. Like I said selfishly, I was looking for a job, so I invited people in. Why the fuck did they come in? So one, we found each other on LinkedIn and like other networks off LinkedIn. Thursday Night Sales had something at the time. There was some other stuff as well that was just like a bigger community. And but I looked at the space and I'm like, okay, I think we have a community. And it started with just people liking each other, like inviting friends. So that'll always get started. But why did more people that weren't friends keep coming? And the answer to that is for a simple line. Like we created a space that cost no money, that allowed every single type of person in. And that was important because there was a big need for that. And at the same time, there was an inflection point where 4 years ago, it was still hard, still is today, but it was really hard to become a senior leader if you were a certain sex or looked a certain way or a certain race. It was much harder than it is today even. So this allowed everybody in and everybody came, and that was important. It was important to allow everybody in because I believe the space could progress. People could learn more. Companies could grow further. And it seems to have been true. So that's having that problem that you're solving is everything.
Yeah. I think we are coming to the core message of what you are standing for, right? And what we discussed a bit before, because building a brand around a product is one thing, but building a brand around a problem that you solve for is a totally different thing. And I think that is really a core message that I would like to have a double click on, in a sense that you basically, what you did is that you rallied people around a problem, which was finding work, finding community, and also the quality point of you, right? That everybody's equal, everybody's welcomed in this community. What are your tips around that for people listening and watching right now? This differentiation between product versus problem.
Yeah, here's the big thing that people don't realize. You don't get to determine your brand based on what you want. Like your brand isn't an input. It's an output. And what I mean by that is having a unique point of view where you're addressing a major problem in the space or a challenge that multiple people share. And my video 30 challenge, like, this is real time. Why am I doing it? Nobody's putting video up, but there's a big gain because LinkedIn's prioritizing video. Plus, they're giving more impressions for video. There's more engagement. There's all this. Plus, you could learn how to create more. So it's an accountability group. So if I go the next 30 days or a year or whatever, and I'm just saying video is the future, that becomes my brand, right? Not saying descript. I guess you could be the descript guy, but like, the problems that you're solving become your brand, or your brand gets associated with that. And that's Rev Genius's brand, right? Like, if you were to say, what is Rev Genius? You'd say, oh yeah, it's the group of everybody. There's so many people there, and people are so helpful and all of that. Versus if I said I'd go, Rev Genius makes it so helpful for people. And I'm telling you that, no, you need to tell that story.
I think that was really eye-opening for me, right? Because you gave some other examples, but I remember that when I joined Rev Genius, I was so excited, right? Because I was like, now I'm finally part of this group, now I can connect and learn from those, for me personally, it was getting connected to American sales reps, right? Because I'm in Europe and we really look up to you in America, right? From the sales process, the way you innovate and everything. So for me, it was like a big thing to be able to learn from you guys, from the American sales perspective. So I remember when I joined, I was like, oh my God, this is so nice to be in there. And I think that's what you pointed out on there. Maybe to go back a bit, like, what is then a personal brand?
How would
you define it? How would you define then a personal brand when you say it's not solving a problem, or like it's not solving a product, it's solving a problem or evangelizing a problem? And you said that the personal brand is not the input but the output. So how would you define a personal brand, and how do you think people should really think about their brand there?
After I leave this podcast, you and your colleagues will talk about me in some capacity. And it's probably going to be how I made you feel, be it in this interaction or what you know past that. That's my personal brand. That's everybody's personal brand. Now, if you never got a chance, and dare I say, you might compare it versus your impression of my brand based on what you've seen. You might say things like, oh, he's much more approachable, I hope, or he's a dick, I hope not, or somewhere in the middle, maybe, depending on the day, right? But like, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Now, if they've never seen you enter the room, they say, what guy? What girl? So you need to leave an impression. So like, oh, that person's the person that helps everybody, or that person is Will Allred at Lavender. He just, they're trying to solve, they're trying to help 80 million sales reps write better emails, right? Not Lavender, that AI, maybe say they do good videos, or they used to, or whatever. But like, they try to solve that problem. If you could start a company tomorrow, what's the approach you'll take? I'll tell you. Can I answer this question?
Please. That's what the question are for. So Julia, Cesar, thank you for those questions. Please let them come in, because that's why we're here, right? That's why we have this format.
If I was to start a company tomorrow, the approach I would take is create a company where I can make money right away, where I don't need money from investors to hire people. So a services-like company, like I did, probably different than community. Community becomes incredibly hard as you scale. If it was community that I charged people to enter, that would be a little more logical. But at this point in time, I think if I hadn't already started Rev Genius and I'm starting it from scratch in this climate, I don't know that there's the same need it once had. So I don't know if community would that be that item, but it might be a services company helping people. I think a gap that's there is you have fractional CROs, fractional CMOs. I think they're wonderful, but I think the idea of like a fractional GTM execution, like an agency that actually executes, and I'm not just talking about the outbound meeting bookers, and although I do think that there's some good in those that set qualified meetings and stuff, but I'm looking more holistically. So something that looks at GTM as a whole, not just sales, marketing, or ops. And that sounds like, okay, we're all doing that now, but I think we're at a point where GTM, go to market, is more fluid than it's ever fucking been. I have founders who have sold in the past asking me for LinkedIn personal branding tips. Like they want to put that in, calling me for influencer marketing. Is that the right strategy? People, is outbound dead or not? It's a case by case, right? The point I'm trying to make is GTM is no longer I don't know if it ever was, but people certainly thought it was a rinse and replay playbook. And I think that there's an opportunity to create something that's more fluid and help people put more points on the board. And then also what I've learned from building community, help brands build movements with, which is super interesting because not enough brands are being different. They're trying to be better. We have this many more features than this person. Here are our G2 reviews. Across the board, they're great. We won 42 awards from G2. No fucking shit. Everybody won 42 awards. All you have to do is pay for it, motherfuckers. Like, come on. So be different. Help people be different. So Julia, to break it down, something probably a starting point, an agency that charged people monthly, worked with a few clients, nice and simple, not easy, but simple structure, small operation, and then figure out a technology to build from there that I could self-fund or at least self-fund from 0 to 1. I'd be curious, would you try to stand out in an established market? I mean, posting links is not new. Oliver, would you stand out in an established market? Be different, not better. Solve problems. Don't yell. Don't yell. It's what I'm seeing everybody doing. I'm going to post more. I'm going to follow this person. Be different. Be different. 30 videos under 30. I see people doing video all the time. Oh, you're the only motherfucker that pardon my French, that organized people and are posting it every day? Yeah, I'm that dude. Yes, sir. I'm that dude, Oliver. Come to my profile. You'll see what's up. What did work for you in social selling that made you more successful than others? Authenticity. Everybody else is full of shit. I see you have a job board on RevGenius. Would you say this is the way to solve the problem? So the job problem, we have a job board, but the job channel in RevGenius is sometimes more interesting. The job board's easier to see all the jobs, but a job board is a job board is a job board. The differentiator, part of my English, Caesar, not my French. I failed French in high school. That's a whole nother story. But a job board is a job board, a job board. When you have a job board behind a community, like a Slack channel that's linked to it, that's more interesting because you have hiring managers posting and have better connections with them. So I think it's a better way. All right, what else you got for me? This is great. Thank you. I Oliver and Julia, I hope those, like Julia, I'm thinking about your question, and then I would figure out what people need. So I've been thinking about this idea of GTM execution. What's different than me, and like why can't a fractional CRO or CRO, a part-time agency, do this? They can, but I think people aren't thinking holistically enough about it. and it's still too old school, the solutions out there. So creating something that's new school, that works today, and evangelizing the problem. Like, here's all these reasons why you shouldn't hire a fractional CRO. Okay, why? A, B, C, D. Like, and that's not all of them. I know some phenomenal people like that. But I think GTM's evolving, and I think that sales and marketing is going to report to like a head of GTM.
Yeah.
Is that the CRO in some companies? Sure, but it might be called different, and products will be aligned. So, like, understanding this new world. And by the way, we're at an inflection point with AI. Considering not having certain headcount in certain areas is something that an objective head of GTM would do that a head of sales might not do, because they're connected with a certain old school structure instead of looking for what's best for the business and numbers. So having an objective point of view is everything, Julia, and then being able to get money in real time, repeatable money, with the sponsorship business model. Some of it is repeatable, but a lot of it is event based, right? So that's fun, that's great, but I want to make it a little easier for me next time.
Very nice. Yeah, and please let the questions come in the comments.
Is this pretty real? I hope. Like, these are literally things I've been thinking about.
This is exactly what we need here, right? We need real content. And I think when we spoke before, Jared, also you said, there are some people that really stand out with their personal brand because they're not only present, so to say, in the virtual world, but they're also present in real life. And you gave me some example, right? People that you would recommend to follow. And you also said why they are great. Why do you think that certain people for you really stand out? That you should follow, right? Like, what makes them different?
One of my favorite humans and personal brand people in the world, because he knocks it out of the park with impressions, with content. He's really good at that. But he knocks out of the park being a wholesome, great human. This is Darren McKee is the one of the folks that come to mind. He's often the first folk. This guy is a sweetheart of a person. He's kind. He's there to help others. And he's building a hell of a business helping others. And that's kind of cool. He's aligned with everything. He's got a great come up story. I think his great come up story has helped add humility to his life. He's a father, a good one at that. And I think people that are well-rounded like that are priceless. So somebody that's good on LinkedIn that I could text message and get the real stuff, like, that's great. Folks like Scott Leese are real as fuck too. He's very real.
Yeah.
And others. And these folks will help you should somebody get hurt or sick, and they've built strong personal brands in my mind because of what they do off of LinkedIn, as well as what they say on LinkedIn. But I prioritize them more for what they do off, because I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's true. I also have those people, right, that you met and maybe initially through LinkedIn, right, and then they are actually there for you in real life. When you're struggling, or when you have an idea, when you have a question to ask for, and that actually showing up also offline really makes a whole different story, because then you bond on a totally different level. Is there anything else? Because we have another question from you, we can take that. But are there any other strategies that you would recommend, like starting out your personal brand, that people should?
I'll answer Yulia's question. So, talking about what people need, would you say the creation of a community today would need to be very specific? Would this work, or is it better when it's talking to a big? So the answer is create something small that's needed. How do you know what's needed? You could ask a lot of people, or enough people.
Mm-hmm.
You could feel what's needed by, like, what you hear. right in the space. Like everybody's complaining how hard it is to get a job. And then you could test a quick idea by inviting people to a group chat about getting a job in that case. So would you say the creation of a community would need to be very specific? I think the creation of a community any day or any business should be fairly specific at the start and then expand from there. Rev Genius, we were mostly salespeople in the beginning, if not all, and then grew from there.
Nice. Hope this was helpful, Julia.
I love good questions. It's thoughtful. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, like Jared, if you could go back to that's maybe stubborn and very proud and very optimistic young, like 20-year-old that just lost a job, what would you tell that young Jared or younger Jared right now? What advice
So
would you give him?
when I was 23 and I had a job and I left it after 3 months, I went to deliver Mexican food. I still lived at home with my mom, and my number one goal was to get out of home with my mom, but not do it until I had a full-time job. So what I would say to younger Jared or younger Oliver or Caesar or Yulia or anybody is it's fine. It's going to be okay. Everything happens for our benefit, even if it's not immediately obvious. So do your best in the direction you feel is best, and don't be too hard on yourself.
Great. How do you find that direction? Because that is something like I'm personally struggling with, right? Like I'm 28 now. I'm getting closer to the 30s. You have those like weird like anxieties that you get now because you think you're growing up, because you think you have it all figured out. What is showing you the direction? What was showing you the direction when you were in the situation?
I knew. So
pretty straightforward question here, but that really, I'm really curious about that.
All right, so let's take a step back, okay? Because if you're just starting to think about shit when you lose a job or whatever, you really don't know what you want with your life, right? You lose a job and it's an AE job, but you really want to be an entrepreneur. Great, you're closer. You lose an AE job and you really want to be an AE all your life. Great, you know exactly where you're going to apply next. You lose an AE job in tech and you want to stay in tech and maybe go into management. Great. Find a mentor, figure it out. So I think now let's take a step back. You might not know specifically what you want, but you know generally what you want. What I say from my first story, I made a business plan with Brian, who I call 9 years later, to ask him for his advice with what's next. What you don't know is after I created that business plan, I wanted to apply to colleges for entrepreneurship. But I decided not to because I wanted a real college experience. I wanted to party, I wanted to meet girls, and I wanted to do stupid shit. Because I grew up a great upbringing, but I had divorced parents, kind of like a heated divorce. And I, son of a single mom, the oldest person, I had relative maturity, or I had to snap it in, and I wanted to be a kid. So, but I still wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? But like I ended up going to a state school, Penn State, great school. If I could do it again, I would have went somewhere else. If anyone asks. But I still wanted to be an entrepreneur. Now, entrepreneur programs, they didn't have any at Penn State at the time. So I asked people what the closest major to be an entrepreneur was, and they said supply chain. Great. I majored in it. I graduated with it at a 3.0 GPA, which is fine.
Yeah.
It was good. It wasn't awful. So I left there. I got a job in tech and sales because that was my backup plan. Because my dad was a salesperson and I didn't have the balls, pardon my French, again, English, the chutzpah to go and be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what to do. So sales was the backup, and I went to sales and I worked for seamless.com, which was then bought by Grubhub, a food ordering online. I was part of the first one, except I left after 3 months because I didn't want to cold call office managers. And I was paid $32,000 a year, which was on the low side even then. So I went to work at FedEx for 7 years because my dad met somebody at a barbecue. I got paid $48K a year, which was enough to allow me to move out of the house. And because if you remember, I went to a certain college to separate and to be immature.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back to my home after. And I'm like, fuck, I just got to separate again. So that's why that was big for me. But I'm aligned with everything. I still want to be an entrepreneur. And now I'm thinking maybe I just want to be at FedEx. I'm like, no, I wasn't exercising my ambitions. We all know our personal ambitions. Do we want to be a painter, a guitarist, an entrepreneur, a president, a world leader, whatever? We all have an ambition. And if you don't have one, meditate. Figure out what you truly want, what you truly like, probably the intersection of what you like and what you're good at, right? Like that's what they say. What do you like and what are you good at? If you love music, you want to be a musician, but you suck at it, it might not happen. And that's the reality of it. But is there another way to get into that industry then? Perhaps. So after FedEx, I'm like, okay, I had the aha moment. And then I realized technology was the space for the rest of my career. And I didn't know what that was, but I knew technology was the space, and I got in. And now I had an opportunity to be an entrepreneur at the side. And the reason why is because I was around a lot more creative thinkers, to be honest. Sorry, FedEx. And I decided to build a fashion magazine. Why? On the side, because I was sleeping in an office building. Things were fucking bad. And I'm like, if I don't take a risk to do what I want now and things are awful, when am I going to do it? Because if things are good, I'm not going to do it. So I did it. I didn't make any money from it, but I got a lot of street cred. I won fashion film awards. And I learned a ton, be an entrepreneur, right? So I went to my next job. I quit that next job because it fucking sucked. To take what I was doing in my side hustle into the daytime. I took a pay cut. I lost that job because did not get along with the founder. And as soon as I had one off month, he's like, oh, you're out. You didn't hit your number this month. I was the number one person in history. And that was the excuse. And that was fine. I was getting underpaid or whatever. And then I found myself trying to figure it out, find another job. But what I truly fucking wanted is what? To be an entrepreneur. Okay, we know what we wanted.
I think not. Your mic is soon back. I can't hear you. It doesn't work now. Let's see.
We're back. So
Yeah, you're back.
So what I truly want is to be an entrepreneur. So when I lost my job and I have nothing, not even the fashion magazine, because I shut that down because it was a lot of work. I said, if I don't do it now, what am I going to do? So it took me probably 20 years longer than I wanted to. But I knew every step of the way what I wanted. Sometimes when I was doing well at work, hitting numbers, making money, it hid what I truly wanted. Okay, it hid what I truly wanted because it was comfortable. Money is comfortable. Work is comfortable. Leading your team is comfortable, but you get the idea. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think it really helped me, and I think we have two more questions that
Let's do it.
the listeners are dying to get answers.
I could
So
I
maybe
could,
we
I
can
could I
start.
could go over 5 minutes or more, whatever you guys want. I know everybody's got work and stuff, but this is great.
Yeah, I think let's try to round up with those two questions, and then Jared, you can let us know where we can find you, and then people can connect with you directly. But let's start with Oliver, maybe.
So how would you guide a more introverted person towards that? More introverted people can't be loud. Like that's hard.
Mm.
So being different, I'd recommend read the book Play Bigger. It's about category design and creation and thinking differently. And it's more of a positioning thing, right? Like as an introvert, it's hard to speak, period. So there's other things there at play, and I want to be conscious of that. But like, I truly believe I'm an introvert that has extroverted tendencies, if that makes sense. I get energy from being alone. I get comfort in that, all of that. I don't need to be around people. But how would you coach a team member that being different? Would you guide a more introvert person towards that? How would you? Do the exercise alone. Thinking about thinking is the most important kind of thinking. Introverts, all they do is think, right? like this is great. So like think about and I need a real life example, Oliver. You could hit me up to the side. I have nothing to sell you, so don't worry about that. How would you coach a team member that has this personality trait? That's a question outside of standing out to be different. But somebody who's an introvert, be empathetic to it. I don't know what the job is, so or what they have to do in this case, but I would based on that figure out ways to create game plans for them to be successful. I'm building a cross industry problem solving community. Wow, that's a lot of words.
I was also impressed by the words. I think the key question
Is anybody building a not problem solving community? Don't.
Exactly. Don't. If you have listened to this, don't. Please don't. I think the question was, how do I get people to openly talk about their problems on public forums?
All right. So Ashwin just told me exactly what it's about, not even the problem it solves. Right? If I don't know the problem it solves, I'm not going to be able to help. Like I'm doing it. So I'm here fucking guessing, Ashwin. If you said I started a cross industry CS community because CS people learn more from people outside of their space than inside their space. In fact, there's a massive gap in technology in particular that tech CS people need to learn from logistics CS people how to reduce retention. And then you ask me, how do I get people to openly talk? It's a little different question, right? I have no context, Ashwin. I think first you need to start thinking about the problem. You're running a problem-solving community, and I'm not sure why the CS progressive needs to exist yet. I can make guesses.
Yeah. So
anyone with a stake in CS, I don't know why they need people cross-industry. I don't know who needs that the most. Is it somebody outside of tech or somebody inside of tech? And as a comment on your experience, totally second that. I would add, be prepared for the phases when it sucks, because it will. Yeah, it will suck 100%. It sucks until you get comfortable with it, and then you just don't recognize the suck.
Exactly. It's about being comfortable with the uncomfortable.
With discomfort, yeah.
I think.
But Play Bigger is a spectacular book. If you can't tell, I'm testing my storytelling chops today, so I'm in the process of reading a storytelling book. Thumbs up if you liked specifically the story on me bored in the courtroom on the internet dial up with IKEA and how that changed my life.
Gotcha.
How that was an inflection point. Did the doubts about own abilities to be an entrepreneur ever start? Ever stop? Did doubts? No, it's more of a self-realization about your weaknesses, right? Like it's not necessarily just doubts. It's doubts happen. I think doubts stop. I think they transform into the way to make doubts productive is to just understand your weaknesses and say, I'm not strong here. I need to bring other people on, versus just having doubts. Like doubts are natural. And even stronger than doubts are a promise that I know things will work out for me.
Awesome.
If I lost everything tomorrow, including my LinkedIn account, can I get up the next day and start it again? Yeah, I would probably take a week break and just like work out and hang out and just like meditate. And then I would jump in, and I have no doubt I would be 10 times more successful than before, because I would tell that motherfucking story and you'd be like, oh my God, you just lost it all. And he's back.
Exactly. I think, Jared, this is a great way to round that up. Where can people find you when they have follow-up questions now?
Find me on LinkedIn. Join RevGenius, revgenius.com. It's free. It's still free to this day. Oh my God. And if you want to do videos with me on LinkedIn, /Jared Robin. I have like 30 more people till we break LinkedIn again.
Awesome.
So be one of the 30 and see it in real time. See community building in real time. Just join.
Awesome. Jared, I personally learned a lot from you today. Unfortunately, I have to jump to the airplane to fly back to Stockholm. It was great. Great hanging out. Thank you for all the questions also asked in the comments. And if you are excited for the next episode, please join Julia, who asked some nice questions today, and Veronica, in the next episode of the Revenue Circus podcast. And please give Jared a big hand and follow for the next episode, and then hopefully see you soon.
By the way, do we have access to the recording here? Because I would love to rewatch it.
Jared,
let's go.
You're the first one to get it.
You guys, thank you. Thank you all for coming and asking such good questions. And I didn't mean to be a little edgy. I spilled a full thing of coffee on myself, and I'm about to drink another one for fun. Let's go.
Thanks so much.
I'm good at passion, Patrick. That's about it. I'm also good at having ADHD, I think. Undiagnosed. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Take care, Jared.